You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, isn't it?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. You look good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities. It is Friday, May 2nd. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We got one more huge show to get get you through the weekend, and I'm pretty excited about the lineup for today's show. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll be joined by the Iowa head football coach, Kirk Ferentz. He's coming up in a matter of moments. Of course, you saw him on the Open. I'm really excited to welcome Kirk Ferentz to the show. Of course, the Hawkeyes just wrapped up spring football. They had their spring game last Saturday, so a lot to get to when it comes to Hawkeye football and more with Kirk Ferentz. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that so much. Thank you for doing so. If you have not subscribed, please do so, and then also tell a friend to or 20 friends about what we're doing each and every weekday right here in the Quad Cities, Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We are also live on X, so if you're watching on X, we appreciate that as well. And we mention it every day, but we're up and running on every single podcasting platform you can think of. If you have a podcasting platform that you use and you can't find Off the Air, let me know. We'll make sure we get up on Off the Air, get that on there as soon as possible. So as we mentioned, a big show to get you to the weekend. Coming up in a matter of moments, Kirk Ferentz joins us to chat a little Hawkeye football. Also, it's a big weekend in Iowa City for the, I don't want to say the Iowa women's basketball team, but for women's basketball in general. That's because on Sunday, the one and only Caitlin Clark returns to Carver Hawkeye Arena. The Fever playing an exhibition game in Iowa City at Carver Hawkeye. Coming up later in the show, after Coach Ferentz, will be Chloe Peterson. She's the Fever beat writer at the Indianapolis Star. She also graduated from the University of Iowa in 2023. So she covered Caitlin when she was at the University of Iowa, and then she's also covered the Caitlin Clark effect in the WNBA. So a lot to get to, a lot to chat with her as we get ready for a pretty special Sunday coming up in Iowa City at Carver Hawkeye Arena. And then coming up in hour number 2, super excited to catch up with former Assumption standout, former 4-time state champion at Assumption, and now current Auburn softball standout, Anna Wohlers, coming up in hour number 2 of the show. Anna getting ready for senior weekend down with Auburn this weekend. We'll talk to her about that, her transfer from DePaul to Auburn, and also, about Assumption softball and the people here in the Quad Cities, softball here in the Quad Cities, that gave her a great foundation when it comes to softball. So super excited to chat with Anna Wohlers coming up in just a little bit. So joining us now on Off the Air, a very familiar face, head football coach at the University of Iowa, Kirk Ferentz. Kirk, thank you for taking the time, first and foremost. I appreciate you doing this. 25 years in, 26th year coming up. If somebody told you in 1999 that in 2025 you'd still be rocking and rolling, what would you have said?
Probably a lot of people would have taken the under on that one. That's for sure. So I've really never thought in those terms, and I'm still trying to figure out how it all happened. But pretty much my whole career, going back to when I started teaching school and coaching football and women's basketball, actually, at Worcester Academy. It's all about just trying to do what you're doing as well as you can. And there are certain times of the year you give a little thought maybe to what you might be doing next year or how things might move forward. But never really got too occupied with that stuff or preoccupied with it. And, really have tried to focus more so on what I've been doing. And, here we are. So never envisioned living in Iowa. And that goes back to 1981. We were here for 9 years, and now we're back 26. So you just never know. Never know where life's going to take you. And the good thing is a lot more good days than bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, I mentioned, I appreciate you doing this. It's a slower time for you, I guess. I don't know if there's such a thing as a slower time, but you just wrapped up spring practice. When you look back at spring practice, I don't want to just talk to you about the X's and O's of what you saw. How do you approach spring practice now compared to 1999 or 2005, or how has it developed, and what do you look for now? Has it changed a lot? Has it changed a little? Has it not changed at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think really, you look back, our the major core things we believe in, the major core ways we do things, haven't really changed much at all since 1999. And what does change, your teams are different each and every year, where you're at in terms of experience, injuries, all those types of things. There's always a different challenge or different challenges. And then your approach to practice may change or vary a little bit based on those challenges. So you kind of try to assess where you're at, what the team looks like, and what we really need to do. But I think the basics have remained the basics. We take a good concentrated period from the time our guys get back till spring break to really focus on training, physical improvement. And there's some mental work that goes on at that time too, just, team building, things like that. But a big part of it is just the physical strength conditioning aspect or component. And then we transition after break into spring football, and that goes for about 5 weeks. We go at a very deliberate pace. It's 3 practices a week. The other 3 days, the guys are training or meeting and watching what they've done on the field or what they're going to install. And the nice thing about it, there's no race there. You're not preparing to beat anybody or compete against anybody. So it's a really deliberate phase. Yeah, and the pace of that will change based on your team. But one generality is you always have guys that are experienced. You always have a lot of guys that aren't experienced. The focus is probably a little bit more so on the guys that haven't played at all. But, that number varies year to year. So you're making those adjustments. And then, now we transition and we finish up here. We have a 2-week strength conditioning phase with our players. I've got some stuff I'm doing. I'm starting to meet with our team, and that'll carry into June, just having individual meetings. And, guys, staff's out recruiting. And when summer, they get back here early June and get into another strength conditioning phase. And that's pretty much what June and July are all about. So then you're into your season. But yeah, things haven't changed a lot. And the big thing in the spring is just trying to teach guys how to play football better. And then, also have them, which obviously entails them learning their techniques, skills, fundamentals, learning what to do. And then also you're trying to build your team, and that's year round.
Coach, I can't have an interview with you without asking you about quarterback, quarterback 1, QB1, all that kind of stuff. I know Mark wasn't up to speed 100%, but I thought he was ahead of schedule. I think that's what you guys had mentioned. Your thoughts on what he can do with this program, and then just the quarterback room in general, because you look back less than a year from now and it's completely been transformed with some new faces, some new talent. How do you feel about the room, and then especially quarterback 1?
Yeah, I'll finish with that. It's been an interesting road. I'm sitting here in my office, and as you're talking about that, I always just flash back to the Nebraska game in 22, I guess it would have been, or 23, 22. So it was a 20, whatever. The game we lost out here. But I'm thinking about Spencer Petras getting hurt. He got tackled routinely, and his whole shoulder blew up, and it's been a tough road ever since then. Just a really tough challenge at that position. We really felt good about Cade McNamara, seen him play, and played against him, competed against him, had a great feel. Unfortunately, we never got to coach him, and the fans never got to see him where he was full speed health-wise. And, it's hard to play, hard to compete at that position if you're not. And that's kind of been the story, the story of the last couple of years here. It's been a really interesting road, if you will, and a challenging road, that's for sure. So long story short, we feel great about Mark. Really enjoyed getting to know him through the recruiting process. I think his resume speaks for itself at South Dakota State. They're an outstanding program. And can compete with just about anybody in the country, I think. And so what he accomplished while playing in that program, we thought was very impressive. He's more impressive as an individual, just a really mature, Smart guy, engineering major, and very high GPA in engineering. And he's done a great job since he's been here. Obviously, he hasn't been able to throw, but he's done a really good job getting to know his teammates, earning their respect, which is tough to do when you're not fully immersed in what they're doing. But he's been able to do that, and really anxious to see him. He should be throwing the ball here this summer, so it'll be fun to see him get back into it. When we start camp, he'll be 100%. So glad to have him join. And then we've had a lot of changes. Added Hank Brown out of Auburn. Young guy's got 3 years left, and we just signed a guy from Wake Forest, Jeremy Heklinski, who's another guy that we feel really good about. And then certainly in our frontier, Jackson Stratton stepped in at the end of the season, did a nice job last year, and Jimmy Sullivan's a true freshman who joined us. So I think we've got a real good room, a competitive room, and first and foremost, our goal is to play well next year. I mean, that's all that counts at this point. But hopefully, while we're in the process of doing that, we'll be able to develop a room maybe where our next starter will come out of that room. That would be a perfect situation if we could have it go that way.
Kirk Ferentz joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Coach, I've had Chad Leistico and Tom Kakert on the show this week. Probably got to pick better friends, but both of them really raved about the wide receivers at the spring game and maybe in camp. Can you talk to that position as well? Because it seems like you've got some comfortable depth and some really good players that can compete over the summer and into the fall and make an impact on that position.
Yeah, I just talked about the quarterback room. I probably could have had a similar discussion about the offensive line. Certainly could have with the receiver room. We just haven't been able to gain traction. Been playing with some guys probably a little younger than they needed to be. Excuse me, before they got out there. And I think the good news is right now, if you look at it, we've got some older guys in the room, a couple newcomers. Jacob Gill joined us a year ago. It's done a good job. Sam Phillips, I think, is going to be a really good player for us. And then you've got a guy like Caden Weegan who has been here and obviously took a huge step last year on special teams. And I think he's getting ready to do the same thing on offense right now. He really looks comfortable with what he's doing. He's a lot more proficient in his play. So, suddenly you've got a group there of some older guys that are, give you some reason for hope and reason to be encouraged and excited about that, certainly. And then we've got a lot of other guys that, again, are younger guys that I think are starting to take those steps that you hope to see. And I think it's going to be a really competitive room. I think right now we feel like we got 6-7 guys maybe that can compete for playing time and hopefully carve out their own niches, if you will.
Coach, I wanted to talk about a bigger picture with you when it comes to college football, and it's a loaded question, so it's not it's hard to. You got to almost specify a little bit, but it's changed so much over the years, and especially over the last couple of years. NIL, transfer portal, all those kind of things. We've talked ourselves about evolving in everything you do. How have you found yourself evolve over the last couple of years? And then maybe you probably want to change a lot, but what things would you change or tweak when it comes to the world of college football and what it's kind of become?
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not sure how we got here, but I think I do know a little bit about how we got here, and it's unfortunate. And the grand finale here is this lawsuit that's still yet to be settled, and that probably encapsulates the whole thing. I mean, it's ludicrous. It's May 1st today, I guess, right? Or was that yesterday? I don't know. But anyway, we're in early May now, and we still don't know what the rules are for August. How many guys are going to be on our roster, things like that. And I mean, nobody in their right mind would ever manage a business in the private sector this way, but here we are. So, it's just been, I think probably poor communication. The world's changed a lot. And, with all due respect to the NCAA, it's a very cumbersome organization. They've, I think, probably tried to regulate and try to, govern a body with, one approach. And we've got a lot of different levels of competition going on right now in college athletics. And I think we all realize, the college world and football has really boomed. You probably noticed that when we started adding teams from the West Coast or even going back to the East Coast. So, it's a changing world, and we really haven't kept up with it very well. You end up with lawsuits, and again, we got there's a lot of lack of clarity right now. So all that being said, I mean, really you have two choices. You can leave, or you can, try to force yourself to find a way to make it work, and try to get creative a little bit, and try to adapt without losing your identity. I think that's probably the key point for us. Everybody's got a different approach. I'm not judging anybody else, but we wanted to try to stay true to our core values again without sinking to the bottom at the same time. So we've tried to adapt and adjust, and I think we've done a decent job of that. But leading to your last question, which I think is probably the most critical point in all this stuff, we're all still alive. We're all doing fine. Everybody in college football, and I can't speak for college basketball. It's crazier than us. But I think at some point, if we don't get this thing under control, it's a pretty basic statement. But if we don't get it under control, I don't think it is sustainable the way it is right now. Having spent 6 years in the NFL, a couple things the NFL has that we don't have. And the NFL contract means something. So if you sign a contract, you're gonna honor that contract, or you're gonna sit at home, and that's coaches and players. So you sign contracts that mean something, and then the other part about it is the salary is capped. It's not for coaches. You could argue maybe they need to do that. It's a separate topic, but for players it is capped, and so what they have is a sense of there's a semi-equal playing field, if you will. Teams that draft the best, coach the best, are the teams that typically win. Teams with the best organizations have the right approach, and just do things. They're the ones that seem to win. Team like Baltimore, franchise like Baltimore. So you just look at that. Kansas City the same way, but we don't have that right now. Our players can basically jump and go play anywhere else. In 24 hours, they could be somewhere else. So that's an issue right now. And the other issue, the bigger issue, I think, is just not having a cap, some form of control and cap on the revenue. And I know we don't want to call players employees yet, but they are going to get paid this year, as I understand it. So whatever you want to term them as, at some point there's got to be some, it's got to be a two-way street a little bit. And without the salary cap, you end up with a situation like Major League Baseball where the teams, the coastal teams like New York and the Dodgers, they've got the biggest purse. So chances are they're going to load their roster a little bit better than maybe my hometown Pittsburgh Pirates. So that's what I fear that we're going to create in college football. And I think I don't think anybody can argue that's a good thing. I think if you had your choice, you'd rather compete in an NFL model as opposed to a Major League Baseball model.
Kirk Ferentz joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. A couple quick more for you.
Unless you're coaching the Dodgers or Yankees.
Then you're good.
And that's okay.
A few more before I let you go. I know you're busy. I'm biased. I'm in the Quad Cities, and you look at a list of Brett Greenwood, Jake Gervais. I think Julian Vandervelde was like a gray shirt before he was eventually full scholarship. I got to check with Julian because I keep saying that. I'm not sure if I'm right. Even a Rusty Van Wetzinga, who was there and now at Central Michigan, are all walk-ons that came to this program and developed and did good things. And you mentioned you don't even know what the number is of your roster right now, and it's supposedly going to be 105. But I guess the point of my question is, you guys have used the walk-on system and you've hit some home runs. How does the new rules, the new regulations kind of affect a program like yours that is proud of the development they've had in walk-ons and getting talent on campus and developing those guys?
It's really one of my biggest fears, Matt, and it's kind of two levels. To your point, you just mentioned some really, outstanding players, and a couple of those guys are on this list. I was walking in our facility one time. We have a wall where we do honor, recognize some of the accomplishments of our walk-ons. And since I've been here, we've had 8 become captains, and that's about as high honor as you can get because you're voted on by your peers to become a captain. And, I looked at that plaque and I'm wondering, which guys are we apt to miss here in the next 10 years that would have been here and developed into captains. The great thing about football, you just never know how a guy's going to develop. I think, if the year before the draft, somebody had said Patrick Mahomes is going to be Patrick Mahomes, I don't think anybody would have taken, believe that. But somebody in Kansas City figured it out and they drafted him. I think it was the 10th pick, but probably 9 general managers wishing they had done that. And that's a cool thing about football. A lot of those good stories. So the guys that maybe would have had great careers, that's a big thing. And then the other part, and I've got our younger boy as an example of this. Our son Steve never started a game here, and when we brought him in and recruited him, I told him, I said, just give you my fair assessment. I'm not sure you're ever going to start a game here, but we'd love to have you on the team but I want it to be a good experience for you. And obviously, if you're on the team, you're on the team. And so we've had a lot of guys that walk-ons and scholarship players that never started that were great team members. And it takes that to build a team. It takes that to have a successful season. So, we're limiting opportunities. And, I'm not against the cap at all, but 105 is just if you talk to football people in college football, we had this conversation last May in our league meetings. Nobody agreed that 105 is a good number. They really didn't. And the administration understood that somehow between May and today, that number got changed. It got adjusted down. But we were all thinking, in the 115, 120 category, probably a fair number for a healthy college football program. So, it's unfortunate. There is some talk maybe they're going to grandfather it and all that stuff. But, the sad part there is we already notified our guys that we couldn't promise a 105 spot to. We let them know that back in November. So they can grandfather players back in. That's really not going to help the guys we've had discussions with. And quite frankly, it rewards people that haven't communicated with their players. And, that's a whole different story. I don't want to go down that road. But, college athletics, it's an interesting study.
No, it's crazy. Before I let you go, we're in the Quad Cities, obviously. We got some Quad City guys I got to ask you about real fast. Brett Greenwood is somebody that I've come up and done stories with you. I know he's inspired the heck out of you. I've talked to people about him being a Hall of Famer on the field and then a Hall of Famer off the field, about what he's done and how he's inspired people. I know you still keep tabs on Brett. When you see that story, talk about Brett as a warrior, and you saw it on the field, and now you see it to this day in what he's doing.
Yeah, I've got to go back to when my first exposure to Brett. Reese Morgan was the recruiting coach at that time, and Reese was with us for a long time, 20 plus years. One of the best coaches I've ever worked with, and maybe the best human being I've ever worked with in my entire career. But Reese had just a great eye for the right people. And whether it was Brett Greenwood, Mike Elgin, it seemed like every year there was somebody, Josie Jewell, somebody that he would subtly bring up. And I learned over time, I got to listen deeper and closer to Reese, because he won't hit you hard with it. But if he mentions the player a couple times, you ought to pay attention, because he did that with all those guys. And Brett was on that list. I'll never forget the first time I saw Brett. They were actually, he was out playing soccer. I don't know if it was a soccer team or just, gym class, but he was out there fooling around on the field, and met him that day at school there. And then obviously he came, and from day one, just, serious, focused, had all the attributes that you're looking for. And then the question is, can he develop into a Division I athlete? And certainly he did that. The commonality there, typically, we've had one or two guys who are just so gifted, but typically it's the hard work the athlete puts in mentally and physically. And Brett, checks every box multiple times in those regards. So basically, ends up going in the game. I think his first game was 2007 against Illinois, if I remember correctly. And we upset them out there. We didn't have a great season that year, a great team, but we upset them. They went to the Rose Bowl. And then, never looked back. He just had an outstanding career for us. And what he went through is just so tragic, and just so, there's no way anybody could have predicted that or seen that coming. But what he's done since is just, nothing short of remarkable. And it's a testament to his strong will, the competitive spirit that he has. And I think, again, that the attributes that made him a great athlete, that's what's pushing him forward right now. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Pat Anger's name in that case too, because you talk about being a good teammate, and that extends past the football field. It goes way beyond. Pat's a living example of that. And he's been a good friend to Brett for a long, long time. And that friendship has only grown deeper and continues to be strong. So, great admiration. But I think that's one of the byproducts about playing a team sport like this that, makes it so beneficial. And the games are important. Don't get me wrong. The scores are important, statistics, all those things. But 10 years down the road, none of that stuff, those are all memories. And, you got rings, you got watches, all that stuff. But it's more about the relationships that get developed and get bonded. And those things last for life. And so when those guys come back to campus, 10 years later, 20 years later, it's like they never left. It's one of those deals. They'll look a little different, but they're still really close and have that mutual respect. I think that's the coolest thing about it. And, Brett's, just emblematic of that whole thing.
A lot different. Pat's let himself go. He looks awful. Have you seen him? Like, I'm worried about him.
I have. I saw him last week, actually.
He's tipping like $3 bills, like $3.50. I'm worried. He looks like a defensive tackle instead of a lineman or instead of a linebacker.
The skilled guys, and I'm going to include linebackers. They get bigger, and the bigger guys get smaller.
There you go.
As a rule.
If I told you in 2009, last question, I promise. If I told you in 2009 that Pat Angerer would have a live microphone for 4 hours every Saturday in football season, what would you have told me?
Well, that would have been a little risky in 2009. That's for sure. No question about that. Fortunately, it's well hidden, but he has matured. And I always, when I think of Pat, I think of Tom Brands. They're very spontaneous. There's a lot of good stuff coming out, but I think it's all very, Tom has always, I think, been very calculated. He knows fully knows what he's doing and what he's saying. And I think Pat's the same way. And I think you know that as well as I do. Pat's he's a very spontaneous guy, but I'll tell you, he's a great guy. He's been a great teammate, great supporter of the program. And I don't get to listen to the broadcast, but I'm sure it's outstanding. I think it's just great. It was tough losing Ed. Ed is first class in every regard. I think Ed's best attributes, Pat shares a lot of them. Ed really understood the game in all realms, and then more importantly, understood the people involved, the players, the coaches, and just the highs and the lows. And I know Pat's got a great appreciation and understanding of all that stuff too. So I think that's a key component for a guy in that position. So I'm thrilled that Pat's doing it. And I'll tell you, Pat's one of the best leaders we've ever had.
He's good people. Coach, you are good people as well. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to chat with an unemployed guy who started a TV show up in his loft. It takes a good man to do something like that. So thank you so much. Enjoy a little rest and get back to work this fall.
Well, we're going to do that, Matt, and I congratulations on your venture. I know that took some guts to do it, and I'm glad it's going so well. Hopefully the ratings don't drop after this interview. But anyway, just really happy for you and happy you can enjoy your kids. There's nothing better. And I'll give you a flashback, whatever it would have been, 86, 7, 8. Our oldest boy, Brian, was up at practice on Thursdays, typically come up to practice. And never forget Bill Brazier in the locker room just telling me it goes fast. And so true. And Bill's one of the all-time great people, too. And so I think, I really applaud you for doing what you're doing and just enjoy every bit of it. It just keeps getting better, too. I can tell you that. I'm a little older than you are, so it keeps getting better.
Just a little bit. Coach, we appreciate you. Stay healthy, stay good. We'll talk to you real soon.
Will do. Thanks, Matt.
That is Kirk Ferentz, head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes. An honor to have him on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We got much more to get to. Caitlin Clark's coming to Iowa City again this weekend. We'll preview it next right here on Off the Air. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? That fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities. It's a big weekend of sports as always. A huge one in Iowa City. And you don't expect a early May Sunday to be huge with women's basketball, but Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever come to town for an exhibition game at Carver Hawkeye Arena. And someone who will be there covering them is an Iowa alum of their own. Chloe Peterson with the Indianapolis Star joins us right now. And Chloe, you're a full-time beat writer for the Fever. You're also an Iowa grad, so we'll get to Caitlin in a second. But personally, you got to be excited to go back to your old stomping grounds this weekend as well.
Yeah, I think it'll be exciting. I mean, they've talked a lot about the fact that there is no air conditioning in Carver. So I know from my experience graduating in there 2 years ago, it was pretty hot. And I don't even know what it's going to be like when there's going to be 15,000 plus fans, a ton of media, just a packed house in there. So I guess we'll see from there.
Yeah, no, it'll be an interesting Sunday. I want to talk about your background because you went to the University of Iowa and then started covering the Fever before they became the Fever, if that makes sense. Kind of talk about that because you were on the Fever beat. Now you're living on the Fever beat.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Iowa from 2019 to 2023. I covered the women's basketball team for 3 years, and it was Caitlin Clark's freshman, sophomore, junior year, and then I graduated, and I also covered, Iowa football and everything like that. And then I got an internship with Indy Star in January of 2023, and I was planning to do the internship and then kind of figure things out until an entry-level position kind of came open in March before I even started my internship. And I called my editor and I was like, hey, you want to give me a full-time job? And it worked out in that sense because, I'm still here, I'm still around. And, for a while, Indy Star had interns or, their general assignment reporters cover the Fever because the Fever from 2017 to 2023 weren't very good. They didn't have a lot of interest in the Indianapolis area or nationally. So it was kind of something that, interns or, general assignment reporters would do. They didn't put much emphasis on it. So I started covering the Fever in 2023 after Aaliyah Boston was drafted. And, they improved that year, but obviously not enough to get into the playoffs. So they got the number one pick again. And then when it was announced that the Fever had the number one pick in December of 2023, that's when everything kind of blew up because people knew, that was probably going to be Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, and it's been crazy since then. You've seen the Caitlin Clark effect on two levels, one covering them at the University of Iowa, and now on the NBA level, WNBA level. What's it been like? You're there in Indianapolis. You saw before Caitlin. You saw after Caitlin. What can you tell us? What it's been like to see it twice, once in college and now once at the WNBA level?
Yeah, I think in college it was more of like a slow progression because obviously when Caitlin came to Iowa, it was COVID. So that was when they had all of those cardboard cutouts in Carver, yeah. And there were only family there. And if I remember right, her first 10 games were only on Big Ten Plus. So it's like nobody was really seeing her on national television at that point. And I remember I went to that sophomore year game that a lot of people talk about in Michigan, where she, I don't know, put up whatever it was, 25 points in the fourth quarter. They still lost, but that was her first, national thing where she was on Sports Center that night. And that was kind of the start of the progression. So I saw it from, her playing in front of cardboard cutouts at Carver to, being on Sports Center, and then her junior, senior years where everything kind of blew up. And I know when I was here at Indy Star, I went to her game, or Iowa's game, at Purdue that year. And that was just mostly Iowa fans in that sense. She was signing autographs, at the, or like at an away arena. And that's something that's become normal for her. But I think when it comes to the Fever, it was just like night and day, because in 2023, when the Fever were playing, they had the black curtains over the top of Gamebridge, and I think they averaged around 4,000 fans a game. And we sat on the baseline. You could hear everything the players, the coaches were saying. And then when Caitlin was drafted, we got pushed up to where they sit for the Pacers, and every seat, at least for most of the games, every seat was taken. And I think they averaged over 17,000 fans, in Indianapolis. And then when they would go on the road, it'd be about the same. And, they released this campaign this year that was like, every game is a home game. And, obviously going to every game on the road, that's true, because I remember in Seattle, she would, be signing autographs and people would be cheering her name when she made a shot. Seattle's about as far away from Indianapolis as you can get in the W. So it's been really interesting to see how, every game really is a home game, and it's usually, 50-50 Fever fans, or at least Caitlin fans. And there's cheers sometimes on the road for both teams.
When you've seen her professionally, you've watched her personally grow up then too. Kind of talk about that maturation from being just a college girl wanting to play basketball to being the most recognizable person maybe in the entire world. You've watched it firsthand. Talk about that maturation as a young girl to a young lady, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think she's changed much, kind of going from college to going to the Fever, or, in her fame either. She's always been the type of person who always wants to talk about basketball. She always wants to, be the best kind of basketball player she can be, from what I've seen. I think, the biggest thing in her maturation, here has kind of been, starting to learn to, when to talk to the refs, in a sense, because I think that wasn't much of an issue in college, because, they don't have technical fouls in women's college basketball. They're intentional fouls, which I don't know why that is, but that's a different conversation. But she got one technical foul away last year from getting suspended for a game. And that's something she says, she's going to, improve on this year. She's talked about, promising Coach Steph White that she's only going to get 2 technical fouls. And I think a lot of it is just kind of on the court, learning how to play against more physical teams, more physical players, and people like Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, Aja Wilson, who have been in the league for years.
No, absolutely. Chloe, when you look at the Fever, it's not just Caitlin Clark coming to town, and that's obviously going to be the headline. This is a really good basketball team that was good last year towards the end of the year and made the playoffs, and they improved a ton. Talk about this team, because I think Iowa fans, and it's funny because they're like Iowa Hawkeye Fever fans, if that makes any sense. I think there's a ton of Fever fans in the state of Iowa, obviously, but I think they've embraced that team, and it's a good team. Talk about the team that's coming, because it's a playoff team that reloaded during the offseason.
Yeah, there's 5 players returning from the 2024 Fever team, and they have an entirely new front office, entirely new coaching staff. So obviously the 5 returners were, 5 people who played a lot last season, and, Caitlin Clark and then Leah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell, which, the Fever front office and, former GM Lynn Dunn kind of referred to as their big 3. And then they also have Lexi Hull and Damiris Dantas returning. But outside of that, it's kind of a new team. But the people they've brought in, they have Dewana Bonner, who's a 15-year league veteran. She leads the league in playoff game appearances with 87. She has 2 WNBA championships. She's about the most experienced veteran you can be in this league. And then you have Natasha Howard, who has won 3 championships. She's played with Sue Bird, Brianna Stewart. She was the 2019 Defensive Player of the Year. And Sydney Colson, who won 2 championships with the Las Vegas Aces. And then they traded for Sophie Cunningham as well from Phoenix, and signed Bree Turner from, she played for Phoenix for 5 years and then played for Chicago last year. So they kind of have half of a new team basically. But I think it was obviously all decisions that are going to make them, potential title contenders.
No, I think it's I between you and me, Chloe, I have a little of my wife's hard-earned money on the Fever to win the WNBA championship. Let's look at Sunday real fast before I let you go. What do you expect going there? And when you go there, obviously you're covering a game, but are you covering a game, or is it the game first? Is it the Caitlin Clark return first? Like, what is the story as you get ready? Maybe it's both. Maybe she goes crazy, which I'm sure she will, and play well. But what's the story journalistically as you go to Carver Hawkeye this weekend?
Yeah, I think for me, it's going to be, the return in a sense, all the fans that she has, all the people that look up to her, the little girls that will come to this game, and everyone who, kind of try to model their basketball game after, try to model their lives after her. So I think is, the bigger story there, especially because, this is a back-to-back for the Fever. So they're playing on Saturday against the Mystics, and then they're coming to, Iowa after that. So Coach Steph White has already talked about how, they're going to have to, limit minutes in a sense, because this is a preseason game. So I don't know how much Caitlin's going to play. I think obviously she's going to play a good amount because this is her homecoming game, but it might not be as many minutes as, fans. Sorry.
Well, there's a visitor.
I was hoping he wouldn't jump up, but I almost
wanted to say
got
hi.
through.
No, wanted to say hi. That's great.
But Steph White has said, her starters aren't going to play a ton of minutes, or her protected starters aren't going to play a ton of minutes. So I don't expect Caitlin Clark to be playing 35, 40 minutes on Sunday or in either game this weekend. So I think a lot of it's going to be, just about her return and everything she's done for Iowa in the sense of, bringing them to back-to-back national championships and inspiring a lot of the young girls in Iowa or young boys in Iowa.
She's done a fantastic job of just that. Last one for you before I let you go. Yourself, as a journalist that went to the University of Iowa and now covers the WNBA professionally, what's a day like Sunday for you? We kind of talked about it a little bit maybe off the top, but it's got to be, have you sat back and said, okay, I'm going to a place where I went to school and covering women's basketball that's selling out a exhibition game in May? You just mentioned the Fever had 4,000 for regular season games at home a few years ago. Do you sit back and look at the big picture about where women's sports are, where women's basketball is, and obviously where your career has gone is pretty cool?
Yeah, I think it's really just fun to see how women's basketball in general, both in the college and in the WNBA, has kind of flourished, especially in the past few years. And I think I'm lucky in the past few years to be covering it in this age. Because I think women's basketball, or the WNBA specifically, has been kind of climbing for, the past 5-10 years. But obviously Caitlin coming in was a catalyst. I believe Indy Star did a study or with an economist that I think 1 in 6 tickets in the WNBA last year could be attributed to Caitlin Clark and the Fever.
Wow.
So she's been a catalyst in, attendance and viewership. And it's been really fun to, be able to have a front row seat to cover that and to kind of document it in the best way I could.
Is there anything you need to do in Iowa City? And I don't know, you have to cover the game Saturday. So are you having the crazy scheduling too? Do you have time to go to Wig and Pin, the Vine? Is there any place you got to hit up when you're back in your old stomping grounds?
Yeah, I am covering the game Saturday, so I'm driving over on Saturday night. It's lucky that the game on Saturday is 1 p.m., so I'll have some time in the afternoon. But one of my favorite spots in Iowa City was Formosa.
Okay.
So I'm really, really looking forward to getting some sushi. And obviously the Vine was a really good spot as well, as you mentioned. But yeah, I'm excited to go back, see a bunch of people, Iowa media that, I worked with for 3-4 years and, kind of be back in Iowa City.
I chatted with Matt Weitzel before Coach Ferentz was on just before the show, and he mentioned he's looking forward to seeing you. So, Chloe, I appreciate you taking the time. I may bug you again during the season because this was fantastic, but enjoy the Iowa Fever / Hawkeye game coming up on Sunday at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Great job as always with the Indy Star. Tell people how they can follow you if they're going this weekend, or if they want to get their fever, if they got fever, if that makes sense. How can they follow what you do?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, or X, I guess now, at Chloe Peterson 67, and then you can go on Indy Star website and find the Fever there.
Awesome. Chloe Peterson, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome. That is Chloe Peterson, former Iowa beat writer when she was here as a student, an Iowa alum, and now she covers the Fever for the Indy Star. She'll be back on Sunday along with 15,000 people watching Caitlin Clark's return to Carver Hawkeye Arena. We got more to get to here on Off the Air on a Friday. Coming up next, we'll chat with former Assumption softball standout and now Auburn standout as she gets ready for senior weekend. Anna Wohlers is next right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo.
Quad Cities, are you brave enough for halfway to Halloween? Friday, May 16th, the Steamwheelers battle on Tulsa in a night of haunted hits and bone-crushing indoor football action. It's spooky fun for the whole family, complete with a haunted house and high-flying IFL football that'll leave you howling. Snag your tickets now at steamwheelersfootball.com/tickets and come get scared and entertained. Friday night, May 16th, presented by Asylum of Mad Dreams and Slick Willie Radio.
Please join us April 24th through May 3rd online for the 20th annual Chuck Long Charity Auction presented by Atlantic Bottling Company. This year's event features over 200 amazing items. The more bidders we have, the more money we'll raise for life-altering therapy for kids in need right here in the Quad Cities. So please bid high and bid often. Brought to you by these sponsors.
The PGA Tour swings into the Quad Cities again this summer, and you don't want to miss it. The John Deere Classic brings golf, music, magic, and more to TPC Deer Run, July 2nd through the 6th. Wednesday, July 2nd is Youth Day, and ages 15 and under are free all week, making it perfect for the whole family. Stick around after the golf on the weekend for the concerts on the Course Series, featuring country superstar Dierks Bentley on Saturday, and Grammy Award-winning Zach Brown Band on Sunday. Come for the golf, stay for the party. Visit JohnDeereClassic.com to get your tickets before they sell out.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities. Of course, softball season in full swing, almost hitting the home stretch when it comes to the high school season and, of course, the college season as well. The Quad Cities area has been blessed with great talent, especially the last, 5, 10, 15 years. So many of them doing well here in high school, but then also doing well at the next level. And that includes this young lady right here. Anna Wohlers joins me right now, former Assumption standout, played at DePaul, and now is wrapping up her career down at Auburn in the SEC. First and foremost, Anna, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. How you like the South?
I love it, and thank you for having me. It's so much warmer down here compared to up north. I don't think I've seen snow since I've been back home.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, we kind of talked about it, and I want to get to where you're at in your career and all that kind of stuff. But kind of in the intro, we talk about the softball in the Quad Cities, and it's both sides of the river. We've had state champions. We'll talk about the 4 that you won when you were at Assumption a little bit, but it's a great area for softball. How proud are you to kind of carry that flag at the college level and, of course, at the Division I level as well?
Yeah, honestly, it's a great joy to have and something that I truly bring into how I play. I just had a kind of Auburn goodbye letter that I just had posted the other day on social media, and it was like, thank you for taking a chance on a girl from Iowa. And I mean, when you see Iowa, most people think, what's Iowa? Who is that? But knowing that you can be at this level as a kid from Iowa, working your butt off, winning state championships in high school, as well as across the river. I know we talked about this beforehand. Taylor Panel playing over at Tennessee, just played her about 2 weeks ago. And man, she's a stud as well, but it just shows like how much talent is in small places. I mean, you can just find gems from anywhere.
You left Assumption and went to DePaul and had a fantastic career at DePaul. All Big East and fantastic stuff. You took the chance to go to the portal. Before we talk about going to Auburn, take me through that decision and what made you, I don't know if I want to say test yourself more, or what led you to make that decision to head to the SEC?
Honestly, it was wanting to test myself more. I'm grateful for my time at DePaul and the coaches there, as well as my education and the girls on the team, but it was time to step up my next level of softball, and going into the portal, I was hoping to do just that. Getting calls from other coaches. I think I had about, I would say 40 plus calls in the portal, and it was all levels. My first one was about 15 minutes into it and at a Division I level as well. And it was just really amazing to see that people were still wanting me even in the portal. Obviously, it's risky business even going in general, but it's so refreshing to see that other coaches out there still wanting you. And honestly, I was just putting myself to the test to see what else I could do. I was out there wanting to up my game, find a coach who could do that for me and at a higher level. And I'm thinking the SEC don't get much better than that.
No, not at all. This is a cheesy question, but what's the portal like? I know it's not an actual portal or place, but when talking to Brock Harding and Owen Freeman and so many people that's been in the portal, Grace Buffelli was just in from North Scott. I know it's not a place, but what was it like going in? Because it's speed dating, it's quick, everything comes at you fast, a lot different from how you were recruited out of high school. Kind of talk about the portal itself and that experience.
Going into it to start, there were a lot of steps that I needed to follow. Talking with the AD, the coach, compliance, you name it. And from there, after I got done with all my meetings, I went to my compliance lady and it was like, okay, you're done. Here it is. And now you just sit back and wait. I mean, I had to tell the girls that day before I was getting phone calls. And because I got a phone call within 15 minutes, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to be on a phone call and they're in the next room. So I get off that phone call and I come out and I'm like, hey, I meant to tell you, but when I got back, but I just got a call. I went into the transfer portal and they kind of figured with everything that was going on. But I mean, at that point it was sit and wait. And it almost felt like September 1st all over again, truly. Yeah. Except this time there was a lot more attention going on. And any phone call that happened, you picked it up, you wrote names down, you saved contacts and everything like that. I mean, it was a rush and it was a lot of phone calls, a lot of talking, but just keeping notes and trusting the process was all it took.
Absolutely. You get a call from Auburn. A lot of calls, sounds like. What led you to Auburn? Obviously, SEC, we understand all that, but what is it about that place that said that's home for you?
Honestly, I stepped on here and just saw the potential this place had. It almost had like a cozy home feeling. It was quiet, gave big city, gave obviously that SEC feel. At DePaul, I never got baseball. I never got football. To go to any of those games and to just see those stadiums on this campus was like, holy cow, this is real. And not to mention, we just got our locker room renovated the year I was coming in. So I got the big reveal last year. We were hosting the SEC tournament, and this university has a great reputation for its education. I mean, once you graduate from Auburn, you care for Auburn. You care for the people who come in next. I mean, you are there for them constantly. And not to mention this softball program already holds its own. I mean, our assistant coach, Emily Carasoni at the time, was on that Women's College World Series team who made it all the way, I believe, back in 2014 through 16. I can't remember my dates, but I mean, just the expectations and the standards that they hold, it was truly everything that I wanted. And then not to mention the coaches just really being there for me and letting me know what they expected up front and kind of how things were going to roll. And I just appreciated the honesty.
Started every game last year, good season again this year, but you mentioned writing a letter because senior weekend is upon us. I talked to your dad, I think last week, and I know he's heading down. I know he's always down, but what's that going to be like? And then it's got to be more than just. And you tell me, is it more than just Auburn? Is it when obviously Auburn's important? That's where senior day is, all that kind of stuff. But I'm sure your journey comes into your mind as well when it comes to leading up to a senior day in college.
It truly does. And that letter to me was just a tidbit of kind of what softball, the university, and everything that I've been through has meant to me. I mean, coming out of, we were just talking about the Hitman. I think that's truly where my travel ball experience took off. I had a great coach, and I can't thank her enough for all she's done. I think she was the one who helped me get started in that process. And then I moved on to a couple different travel ball teams, ended with the Eastern Iowa Barracudas, where I actually got to meet some of the other girls around conference, as well as just the state of Iowa in general, some girls from City High, Muscatine, obviously we play them, Liberty and such. But it gave me a chance to really meet such great people along my journey and ones who still support me and follow me today. But softball as a whole, it's something I've done my entire life. I don't want to say it's my identity, but truly I am a softball player. That's what I see myself as right now. And next step is a big girl job, which I'm looking for right now, and got to make that decision. But I think just looking back on my years, I wouldn't trade anything for the world.
Absolutely. I want to talk about those days Assumption because I got to cover, I don't think I was at all of them, but the process too. I think I made Corey or somebody go up to Fort Dodge more than I did, but those state championships at Assumption. And that laid the foundation. I know that you talk about the travel ball and all that kind of stuff, but talk about those days at Assumption, and that's special. 4 state championships is hard to do. 1 state championship is hard to do. What were those years like? And I'm gonna make you feel old, but like, can you look back now? I remember like talking to you when you won them, and you're in the moment as you should be. Now now that you removed a few years, can you go back and look at them, and do you look at them any differently at what you guys accomplished?
Honestly, I think back to even the practice days that we had, let alone the games, and coming in as an 8th grader, getting to be mentored by those seniors. You got Emma Valinas, Nicole Timmons. I mean, those are some top contenders up there. And as an 8th grader, I'm like their shadow. And next year it was me. And they were just great people to learn from. Not only that, Coach Farrell really set the standards high and the expectations and what he wanted from this program. And I think he truly just elevated the Assumption program in general and all that the girls had to offer. I mean, personally, I don't think there's some days I don't think I'd be there without him. And then also thinking back to drills and stuff we did at practice, I'm like, he prepared me for this. Right here, this is what I'm doing in college. He knew what he was doing. He prepared me. So honestly, I owe a lot to him. Coach Farrell was great with what he did and can't thank him enough. And all the girls in general.
Yeah. Coach Nelson, John Nelson, was on the show a couple weeks ago, now at Augustana, and he said, I don't coach college softball like I did high school. I coached high school softball at Rock Ridge like I was going to coach my college team. Is that something that Coach Farrell probably did? He didn't coach you girls like high school team. He coached you probably like he coached his college team at St. Ambrose.
No, I think he totally did. I mean, we were all in that stage of potentially getting recruited. If you wanted to play softball at the next level, this is where you're going to start. And he knew the best way to make that happen. And he also had connections to help you out in those places as well. I mean, him being a coach at Ambrose and then having connections at Iowa State, UNI, Drake, you name it. I mean, he was just a great resource to have. And as well as the other girls, I mean, like I mentioned before, Nicole Timmons, she went off to Drake. Well, when it came time for us to come around, she could have put in a good word for anyone. Like, hey, I played with this girl or anything like that. But truly, I think he definitely shaped all the girls there to what they could be and what they will become.
Absolutely. Anna Wohlers, the softball standout at Auburn, joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. You mentioned getting a big girl job. What's next? I mean, what are you looking at? Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? I don't know if you know everything for sure, so I'm not meaning to throw all of these questions at you, but what's the thought process like right now?
Right now, I'm actually supposed to be graduating May 11th with a major in business management and a minor in entrepreneurship. At DePaul, I was a sports business management, so management is kind of where I've been in that leadership position. I've always loved to be there. Obviously, I think it came in handy with college and also high school, and I think that's really where it got started with winning 4 state championships out of 5 years. I mean, there had to be leadership roles along the way, and I think a lot of the girls helped shape me into that and help me with that journey. But I'm hoping to stay in the South. I'm not looking to go back home to the cold, although I do love my family and I will be back to visit for sure. The South is where I want to be. I love it so much down here. A couple places I'm looking right now, a job in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and a job in South Carolina, the Greenville area.
Okay.
2 different jobs, but both something I'm very interested in. One deals with marketing. The other is mortgage loans and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited to see where it's going to go, and hopefully that decision is going to be made soon. So
why do I feel like maybe softball and coaching may be part of your future? Am I crazy? We haven't talked about this, but I feel like someone who's played the game as much as they've played, is that something that interests you at all?
Personally, I think it does. I think right after college, though, I think I'm ready for a little bit of a break. I kind of said before, it's been my identity for the past about 16 years, and I'm ready to do something different, but I know this love for the game that I have is not going to go away by any means. And I think kind of making my way up in the rankings would be really nice. I mean, starting out with doing lessons, I've already accomplished that and would still love to continue doing it. I've really found a passion with teaching girls one-on-one and just seeing how much they grow and appreciate the game. I want to give them back everything that I got from the game. And then just from there, kind of maybe go on to some travel ball, maybe high school. Don't have my master's, so not sure where the college world's going to lead. May go back in and get it. But for right now, we're just going to get that big girl job and see when softball is going to want to come back out again. I think it will soon, but for now, we're just going to continue doing lessons.
I love it. I love it. Some fun questions for you. First off, as I'm talking to you, and I know you love the South, do you find yourself, are you yawling? Are you picking up some of that kind of stuff? I'm not saying you have an accent, but like, is the South rubbing off on you, young lady?
It is. Y'all has definitely become part of just my language in general. I'll send it in text messages with no hesitation. I go back home and my parents are like, what are you saying y'all for? And even my people that I don't see for a long time, like, you're already saying y'all. And I had a comment the other day, I was saying bye, and I'm just like, all right, bye. Like, and it slips out from time to time. I don't think anything of it. Just, I've been around a lot of girls who have those accents, so it kind of picks up, and they're pretty heavy down here, so it's really hard to not kind of copy a little bit of that from time to time. Just
you're in Alabama. It's not like you're northern South. You're in the South. Are you superstitious? And if so, what are your softball superstitions?
I shouldn't say I'm super superstitious. I used to be in high school that we all were superstitious. I mean, when we were at the state tournament game, if you were drinking a Kool-Aid or like a little Capri Sun before the game, we had a pack of those to make sure you were drinking them before every game. But no, I think I'm more someone who likes a routine of just like waking up, breakfast, coffee, making sure I get this and that done. Doesn't have to be the same meal. But I will say I put socks on before my pants. Some people put pants on before socks. Found that out was really interesting. And make sure if I do any sort of makeup before the hair, and just call it a day. I wouldn't say I'm very superstitious.
That's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. What do you miss about the Quad Cities when it comes to, now you're in the South eating Southern food, so I'm sure it's not bad at all, but is there a place, something about the Quad Cities when it comes to food or something we have here that you miss the most?
Off the top of my head, Whitey's. I mean, I follow them on Instagram and I just saw them post their new puppy chow shake, and I'm like, I need that. And I'm not going to be able to get it for a good long while.
What's your Whitey's order?
Ooh, honestly, I like to mix it up just a little bit between like three things. I love a good chocolate chip cookie dough malt. I like the cup of Joe espresso, and I'm a huge white chocolate raspberry fan. So I'll just get a scoop of like the cup of Joe or a scoop of the white chocolate raspberry.
Wow, you got me hungry, darn you.
Yes.
If you, along the lines of food, what's the weirdest thing you ever eaten? Is there something that like, are you try anything? Are you picky or?
No, I'm not picky at all. I'm literally open to try anything. I know, actually funny, on my visit here at Auburn last year, we went to this place. I can't remember. It's like a number name. Super, super nice place. Oysters. Never had one before, and it was raw, I believe. And they were like, what coast do you want that from? Like, what water? I'm like, there's a specific water you have to get it from.
Sheesh.
Found that out, and so we ordered them and tried it for the first time. Really not as bad as I thought it would be. Texture's a little different, but flavor was there. The other one would just be like a octopus, I guess. There was one time I saw like little tentacles on it, but it was like grilled and charred and stuff. Super good. I'm not picky at all.
See, you mentioned the key is texture. Like, I'm a texture guy, and like, I don't know the oyster texture. I don't know if I could do that. We did. It was funny. We were down in Florida, I think, with the kids, and it was probably during COVID or something like that. And we got alligator, and they didn't know it. And we just got it like it looked like chicken nuggets. So we just told them we got chicken nuggets. And my oldest was always the smartest. And he like looked at me. He ate one, but he knew something was up. And then they ate them. They liked them. And then, of course, it was, ew, gross when we told them actually what it was. So they're they're bigger kids than I am. I'm a baby when it comes to that kind of stuff. Okay, if you could have a meal with one person in the entire world, who would it be and why?
That's a great question. I'm going to go Michael Jordan. I have been very, I shouldn't say obsessed, but I love his documentary that came out, The Last Dance. I mean, when that was coming out each week, every Sunday on ESPN, my family made it a mission. Yeah. We were there sitting on the couch with our popcorn and we were watching it. But I still think he's one of the greatest players of all time, not to mention he also dabbled in baseball a little bit, so that's nice to know as well. But basketball at that time was just a whole nother level, and I'd love to dig deeper on like his mindset and how he went from where he was as a kid to the Bulls and just everything like that, and his transition over to baseball and how he was able to kind of be a dual sport athlete at that time. And he's someone I would love to meet. But from Auburn, I would love to meet Bo Jackson.
Okay.
As an Auburn alum. Yeah. Bo Jackson, again, dual sport athlete kind of thing. I would love to meet him. Big fan. I know my dad's a big fan too. And he's just a big name here. And every time I see his face across campus, I'm like, oh my gosh, I am here at this place where he was, and he's a legend here. So Michael Jordan and Bo Jackson.
I'm proud of you, because too many times I get LeBron and it annoys me because, and then we got to argue and all that kind of stuff. And so you have your priorities straight when it comes to that. Also, what's his name? Gosh, Charles Barkley. He's an Auburn guy too.
Oh, yeah.
He'd be a trip to have a meal with, I bet.
I would love to meet him. He seems like such a character. And I know watching Auburn basketball this year and how they were so successful, Charles was really involved in the program this year, and just hearing him on TV and hopefully maybe seeing him in person from time to time. But no, he would be someone I would love to just sit down and just have a conversation with. I think he'd be great.
Love it. First, a few more. If you could play another sport at this level, anything, what would it be and why?
Honestly, I had to think about this at one point, early in high school, like before I even thought about getting recruited. I was in basketball and I was in track and field. I could see myself doing track and field in college and being pretty successful at it, I would think.
Okay.
I did shot put and discus, and it was all very foreign to me up until freshman year. I had no clue what to do, and then I had Coach Gonzalez, who coached at St. Ambrose, and Tim O'Neill, obviously. They kind of helped me get through that, and I was the only girl in shot put and discus at Assumption, and ended up getting the school record in shot put and making my way to Drake and state my senior year. So it was fun, and I'd love to try it again. I think it'd be a good shot.
That is very good. Very true. Very true. I had one more, and it slipped my mind. Are you music-wise? Do you have pregame music? Do you have certain things you have to listen to, or is it just a genre, or how do you do pregame music if there is any?
I am someone who just will kind of throw some music out there. Anything that's either going to get me nice and loose, pumped up. I don't care which one. It could be a mix of either. I'm a huge country fan. I love country.
Well, you have to. You're in the South now.
Oh, I loved it way before then too.
I'm kidding.
But a lot of the songs that I listen to are some of the songs that me, my brother, and my dad have picked for some potential walkout songs. I know, obviously, coming high school and then college, I've always had to pick a walk-up song, and I go to those two for hey, is this one good? Oh, what do you think about this one? And they're like, nah. or if like, maybe I'll put it on a list and just kind of keep going with it, and just kind of something to get me fired up.
I love it. That's fantastic. It is senior weekend this weekend. As I let you go, how emotional will emotional be? And when will it come in the weekend? Will it be Sunday? Is that probably the day that'll get you, or is it a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or what's the weekend look like?
It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. I think right now we're talking some weather coming in for the weekend, so we're trying to figure out what days we're going to do what. But I think we've decided Sunday is going to be senior weekend, and then we have like a little graduation ceremony throughout the weekend as well, where we'll get our student athlete sash. And then I was already getting emotional with that letter that I wrote, and that was just a letter to a camera. I can't imagine my parents and my biggest supporters being by my side, my teammates surrounding me, my coaches, and this great community that I belong to just cheering me on through all of this. And emotional is going to be very, very emotional this weekend.
Anna, enjoy it. Thank you so much for doing this. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the big girl job. And I'll tell you, I've told a lot of the people that have come back on the show, you're one of the people that I put in my dime club, that if I had a dime for every time I said your name on television, I would have been able to actually retire and not just, quit and do a job. So loved calling your games, loved covering you, and wish you the best of luck this weekend. Hit a couple bombs, and tell Dad I said hi when you see him down there, okay?
I will. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It was great catching up with you.
Absolutely. Anna Wohlers, a Auburn softball standout, of course, 4-time state champion at Assumption here in the Quad Cities. We got much more to get to. You're watching Off the Air on a Friday right here in the Quad Cities. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
Quad Cities, are you brave enough for halfway to Halloween? Friday, May 16th, the Steamwheelers battle on Tulsa in a night of haunted hits and bone-crushing indoor football action. It's spooky fun for the whole family, complete with a haunted house and high-flying IFL football that'll leave you howling. Snag your tickets now at steamwheelersfootball.com/tickets and come get scared and entertained. Friday night, May 16th, presented by Asylum of Mad Dreams and Slick Willie Radio.
Please join us April 24th through May 3rd online for the 20th annual Chuck Long Charity Auction presented by Atlantic Bottling Company. This year's event features over 200 amazing items. The more bitters we have, the more money we'll raise for life-altering therapy for kids in need right here in the Quad Cities. So please, bid high and bid often. Brought to you by these sponsors.
The PGA Tour swings into the Quad Cities again this summer, and you don't want to miss it. The John Deere Classic brings golf, music, magic, and more to TPC Deer Run July 2nd through the 6th. Wednesday, July 2nd is Youth Day, and ages 15 and under are free all week, making it perfect for the whole family. Stick around after the golf on the weekend for the concerts on the Course Series, featuring country superstar Dierks Bentley on Saturday and Grammy Award-winning Zach Brown Band on Sunday. Come for the golf, stay for the party. Visit JohnDeereClassic.com to get your tickets before they sell out.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities and TGIF. It was a very good Friday, that is for sure. If you're just joining us, we welcomed Iowa head football coach Kirk Ferentz onto the show to start things off. So if you missed that, go check that out. Very grateful that Coach Ferentz took the time to join us on the show today. Got to start covering Kirk Ferentz right off the bat, right when I got out of college at St. Ambrose and started at WQAD. And one of my favorite stories I'll tell, I think I've told it with Dan Birch being on with us, but they were getting good, and Kirk was here at John O'Donnell Stadium back in the time for an event, and I interviewed him there. And then 3-4 weeks later, Dan and I went up to Iowa Football Media Day, and everybody gets their kind of one-on-ones with Kirk, and I shot it while Dan did the one with Kirk Ferentz, and he got done. He said, "Dan, thanks so much." He said, "Matt, great to see you." And I remember walking back to the car going, "Man, Dan, can you believe that?" I mean, Kirk Ferentz remembers my name. It's been like 3-4 weeks, and he remembers that interview and all that kind of stuff. And I kept going, probably like a little puppy dog. I'm sure like a little puppy dog. And we finally got back to the car, and Dan said, "Take your damn name tag off." I was like, shoot. He's like, "I was going to let you have it, but you kept going and going." So it was the name tag that probably gave it away, but got the privilege to cover him for the last 25 years for me. And then obviously he's been at Iowa going on 26 years. So very cool for him to take the time to come on the show today. We greatly appreciate that. If you missed it, go check it out. And of course, Iowa football, little break right now, but they'll get rocking and rolling here soon. And believe it or not, it sounds crazy, but football season, I just read something on social media. Football season is there's like 17 more Fridays without high school football, and then high school football begins, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. Time flies when you're having fun, and it'll be here before you know it for sure. Also want to thank Chloe Peterson for taking the time to join us today. Chloe, a University of Iowa alum, covered Caitlin Clark while at the University of Iowa, but then also covers Caitlin Clark, I should say, now. She is with the Indianapolis Star, a beat writer with the Indianapolis Star, so covers the Fevers closely. So we thank her for taking the time to join us, kind of previewing a big week for the Iowa, or I should say at Carver Hawkeye, a big Sunday, because Caitlin Clark will be back coming up on Sunday. She makes her return to Carver Hawkeye Arena. It'll be interesting, 15-5 in there. And of course, as she mentioned, there's no air conditioning at Carver Hawkeye Arena. So it'll be interesting to see how warm it gets in there. But it'll be a special Sunday. So we thank her for joining us on the show and partaking in, I'm looking for something as we talk, and it's not going well. I'm about ready to give up and keep moving. But thank you to Chloe for joining us right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Go check that out. And then, of course, Anna Wohlers. Always great to catch up with her. She's got an emotional weekend. That is for sure. She will be found it. Ha! She will be doing senior weekend for Auburn. So congratulations to her, and we appreciate her joining the show. So I want to take a couple minutes to talk about a few quick things, and we're going to wrap it up for the week. But the Chuck Long charity auction is going on right now as we speak. It's all over my social media, Tom Kakert's social media. Go to ctcqc.org. So CTC is Children's Therapy Center, QC is Quad Cities. So ctcqc.org. Click on the link and check it out. There's something for everyone in this year's auction. Sports fans, Iowa fans, Iowa women's basketball fans, NFL fans, all the sports stuff is there, but there's also a bunch of other great items, grills, packages, food, jewelry, all that kind of stuff. So go check it out, please. Just take a little bit of time today before you hit your weekend and go to ctcqc.org. Sign in. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to bid. We appreciate it if you do, but raising money for kids who need it right here in the Quad Cities. So take some time to check out the Chuck Long charity auction. It wraps up tomorrow night, Saturday night at 8 p.m. So hop in there and, like I said, help us raise money for kids right here in the Quad Cities. Also, over the weekend or tonight, if you're bored, go check out some of the shows this week. We started the week with Lexi Rodriguez, the Sullivan Award winner, and we finished it with Kirk Ferentz. So Monday show, Lexi Rodriguez, Pat Angerer, Kelly Grobstrich from Assumption won the Drake relays in the 100 meter. Tuesday, Rusty and Joey Van Wetzinga, Ked Prince, and new Lancer head football coach Tony Stewart as well. Wednesday, Tom Kakert and Pat Elder. Pat, the new head football coach at Bureau Valley. Yesterday, Chad Leistico, Jason Fechner, and Malik Duncan from the Steamwheelers. So it's been a full week full of fun shows. Go check them out over the weekend and enjoy the weekend as well, because it's supposed to be a beautiful weekend when it comes to the weather. So get out there, enjoy it, but check out the show over the weekend if you got some time. And then, of course, we'll be back here coming up on Monday with many more shows. What I've been trying to do during this was trying to pull up my sponsor graphic that I could put up, but I cannot find it right now. So what I'm going to do is thank our sponsors as well, because they are very, very good to me. They allow me to do this each and every day. Godfather's Pizza here in the Quad Cities. Hungry Hobo has been a great sponsor as well. Rafferty Funeral Home. Snoop with Snoop's Chips and Salsa, his fantastic food. The Quad City Steamwheelers as well. So a lot of great sponsors of the show. We greatly appreciate them. They allow me to do this each and every day, 10 a.m., off the air with Matt Randazzo each and every weekday. So enjoy the weekend, Quad Cities, and we'll see you back here for a brand new week of shows coming up on Monday.